Ah, and we are live. Okay. Greetings, welcome, and salutations, dear ruling elder elects. This is just us today. I'll be meeting with the deacons next week, and you will not, which is great. Your next meeting of us all together will be on the 17th, which is the called session meeting to examine church officers. I'll be sending you an email about what to expect out of that. And if you will help me remind you at the end of our time together today, I'm going to make a note. I'll tell you what to expect with the examination. But for now, Diana, if you would lead us in the opening prayer.
Let us pray. Gracious God, you call people into your service and entrust them with the care of your church. As we gather in this time of learning and preparation, quiet our minds and center our hearts on you. Give us wisdom as we reflect, courage as we speak, and humility as we listen. Shape us into leaders who watch over your people with compassion, who seek your will with honesty, and who will serve with faithfulness. Let this time form us not only in knowledge, but in love for you and for one another. Amen.
So I sent you a whole torrent of files and an email this morning and said you did not have to read them in advance. So gold star for Joe, because Joe read through a lot of them or all of them. But I simply want to go over them and then kind of help sum up our experience as the training session is coming to a close for y'all, and your term is about to begin in June. I do want to note that I'll be sending you an email which has a survey, and it has two questions on the survey. One is your name, and two, I'm going to be asking you to rank. It has a listing of all of the committees of the church, and I'm going to ask you to rank them in order of your preference for where you would like to serve. Not everyone's going to get their first choice. I have holes in some committees, and I don't have holes in other committees. And rather than me tell you what those are, I want you to answer that survey within the next couple of days by simply ranking which of your committees are preference. So your most preferred committee will be ranked number one. Your absolute least favorite committee will be ranked at the very bottom. And you'll just move them around. Simple form. That's all there is to it. I will let you know what your committee is that you're serving before the end of this week, and also when those committees meet and who those current conveners are. And I would like for you to attend the May meeting of that committee to get started for the overlaps. Some of those elders are going to be rotating off, and we want to make sure there's some overlap. On the 17th, you will, at this same hour, we'll have the called meeting to examine officers elect, and there are two questions that are associated with that. I'll unpack those a little bit more in the email, but the first one is share a moment of God's grace in your life. And that is an open statement. The second one is it'll remind you of what your membership vow was that you answered when you became a new member. And it will say basically, how have you sought to be faithful to that in your time as an active member? I'll give you a little bit more orientation to that. My encouragement verbally to y'all is this is not a PhD dissertation. And so you'll have about 2 to 3 minutes in total. I want to encourage you, for those of you who like to speak extemporaneous, my encouragement is to avoid speaking extemporaneously. Write your notes down, and that's just fine. Notes are good because it will help you stay within a certain time limit and keep you from just run on sentences. Excuse me, y'all. Let me get that yawn out of the way. It'll keep you from run on sentences, and you will share those things. Hardly ever do the elders ask you follow-up questions, but they might want to ask you a follow-up question. And at the end of that meeting, they'll take a vote, and Bob's your uncle. Then on the 18th of May for the elders, you will attend your first stated session meeting, which I have not yet decided whether we're going to do in person or on Zoom. I need to speak with the clerk of session and go over that first. And it really kind of just depends on what kind of business we have before us that night. If it's going to be a full agenda, we'll likely do it via Zoom. If it's going to be an easier agenda, we'll likely do it in person. It just depends on what we have coming towards us. But that will be on Monday, the 18th. And then on May the 24th, we will have the ordination installation of all of our church officers. So we'll have you there. Any questions on the balance of the schedule before we get beginning today? Wonderful. So today's question, which is the 9th constitutional question asked to you, is, will you be a faithful ruling elder, watching over the people, providing for their worship and nurture and service? Will you share in government and discipline, serving in the councils of the church, and in your ministry, will you strive to show the love and justice of Jesus Christ? That is a question that is just for the ruling elders who serve on the session or the church council. And today I want to go over a number of those resources that I sent you, not in great detail of any one of them in particular, but just as an overview so you can have them, review over them. I included an article for you, 10 things ruling elders should know. I think it's a good article. I want you to go through it and think about which one of those 10 points really seems to resonate with you the most, and that may leave you with the most curiosities, the most questions. If you want to discuss those, I'm available to discuss them and visit with you about them. But I leave that for you as your reference. For a little bit deeper dive on our training, there is the additional ruling elder resources. And again, this is information that has been compiled together with a little bit more detail. That's not quite the same as reading the Book of Order, which I know Joe has already done 4 times and just can't wait to read it again for the 5th time. It's just like reading The Lord of the Rings. You're hooked and you can't help but want to read it again. And I'm so happy for y'all and to do that, and you're welcome to, but I'm certainly not requiring that of you. I'm trying to pull it up on my computer. Come on now. But there are helpful bits of information in there. The additional ruling elder resources, there are places you can see some of that might be a little outdated. That's okay. This is just things to kind of point you, and those are some links to kind of point you in the right direction if you want to dig deeper on any one of those in particular. I do want to, and I'm going to pull it up right now. My computer has decided to act like a Methodist and be sluggish, and that's a little denominational joke. I kid the Methodists. I love the Methodists, but my computer is running slow. I do want to go over the church org charts, and I'm going to share my screen now. Wow, it's really decided to go slow. Here we go. Let's see, and share. Sharing is caring. Come on. You see, I can free up some of my own resources. What you have in the organizational chart that I'm sharing with you is I want to go over some terminology that this is the general makeup of the church organization with some caveats. Okay, prior to where we are right now and how we're functioning now, so just within the last year, we have moved away from having commissions and committees, and we only have committees now. Committees can take some various forms, although we have some standing committees of session. So let's go. Y'all see my arrow moving around? Is my arrow moving around the screen? Great. So at the root of how we are in us is the congregation. We are a congregation of people. The only committee of the congregation is the nominating committee. The nominating committee is the only committee that can nominate elders and deacons, and is the only committee that can form a pastor nominating committee. So a session cannot nominate people from the church to refill its own positions. A session has no authority to nominate a pastor for the pastor to be the next teaching elder called to the church. That is all the work of the congregation, and that must come from the congregation. So what the nominating committee does is they can nominate people who will, the nominating committee will send recommendations to the congregations of who they recommend to be elders, deacons, and teaching elders. The congregation then votes on that. And so that is who you are. They sent that slate to the congregation. They voted on you. Great. You are elder elects. The next responsibility is to have the concurrence of the session to sign off on that. After a season of training, which you're in right now, then there's the session. And really, the session has 97% of the decisions that are made by the church are made by the session. The session delegates some of their decision making to committees of the church. Not all churches have deacons or a diaconate, and how those deacons are formed, how the diaconate is formed, is different from congregation to congregation. The first church I served, their diaconate, their deacons were responsible for compassion care, as well as buildings and grounds and the mission or outreach of the church. That is not how this diaconate has been put together. Our diaconate has the responsibility of compassion care, so the care teams, as you see, fellowship or hospitality. The Men of Hope is under the umbrella of the deacons. Our remembrance team or our funeral memorial team, volunteer team, and our Stephen ministry was under the auspices of the deacons, which our Stephen ministry has come to to a suspension indefinitely at this time. But a church is not required to have deacons. What they do, what happens, let me ask you, Joan, if our church didn't have the deacons, where would all of those responsibilities default?
They would all fall under the session.
That's right. They would all default back to the session, and then the session is still responsible for the compassion care, hospitality, fellowship, funeral care that we have would all fall under the session. And so there's a good reason why our church has chosen to have a diaconate and to authorize them with particular duties. One committee we have is the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and they are responsible for, guess what? The buildings and grounds of our church. So anything that is related to the brick and mortar aspects of the physical plant of our congregation, our buildings and grounds does. We have another committee that is our Christian Formation or Christian Education Committee. And under their responsibilities is Christian education for children, youth, adults, and the resources of our library. So the library committee fall under that. Outreach has two purposes that are tasked to it. One is service and the other is community engagement. Sometimes in other churches, rather than the word service, you may get the word mission or benevolence. And service is basically mission and benevolence all in one entity. Benevolence is the amount of money that we allocate from our operating budget that we send out to go support other agencies. The mission or the service is the sweat equity that we do as a body of the church. Can anybody give an example of what would be one of the benevolent things that we give money to and one of the mission things that we participate in?
One of the mission things we participate in is the that homeless outreach up here at the Twin Lakes community. I have completely pulled a blank on it.
It's okay.
We help
Christian
them with their
Resource Center.
Christmas, yes.
Yeah, the Christian Resource Center is both where we send our time and our talent as volunteers. It is also a place that is a recipient of our benevolence, of money that we send to support them as well. Good. Community engagement. Anybody have an idea? And Diana, I'm going to pick on you because you were on session when we formed it. It was the Evangelism Committee. We renamed it to Community Engagement. How might have you seen that lived out of some of the things that community engagement has done?
The interaction with the Cedar Park Pride. And,
right, absolutely.
And being able to be there during different events, having a booth there, having a presence there, helping to make people feel more comfortable that this is a place that they can come and feel safe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's not just limited to Pride, although that's an example. I preached on that a week ago, and it is about being out in the community and being a presence and inviting people to worship God, grow in faith, and follow Jesus by serving others. It is not the marketing team, although there are some things that we do that kind of fall in that category. We truly are, how do we engage in the world in which we live? There is a box here that is missing that needs to be added. This was last updated April 2024, so I need to update it. We did add a third box under outreach, which is advocacy. And how do we, it's public witness was the name of the box. How do we publicly give witness to our faith, whether that is through advocacy with certain groups or with advocacy with elected officials. How do we use our voice faithfully to participate in the systemic mechanisms of the world in which we live? And so that is outreach. Personnel is fairly self-explanatory. They're the ones who oversee and implement all of the policies related to our employees. Their job is also to sustain the care and to be providers of support for the staff, so that the staff don't only ever engage with them when the boom has to get lowered, that there should be no surprises. And so Joe has served on personnel, Diana has served on personnel, and part of what they do is each month they check in with certain members of the staff that they're responsible for. We want to try to elevate them up when their birthdays or work date anniversaries, or for like Crystal, John, and myself, when we hit a milestone of our ordination anniversary, or if, for example, Nancy Bruno is about to go and be out for 3 weeks for knee surgery. This is a time that they can work with her on helping her be away and ensuring that we have continuity of care while she's out. The deacons also usually have a deacon who is assigned to care for the staff, so that that they would pray for Nancy, see if she needs any meal support while she's away, etc. HCC is the Hope Children's Center. Part of their role is to be a support body for the directors, the co-directors of the school. And really, one of the biggest things that they are is a cheerleader for the school. How best can we help elevate the good news of what we're doing here at Hope Children's Center? Stewardship is kind of a twofold aspect. There is a financial oversight aspect of stewardship, as well as stewardship education. At the root of what they should be striving to accomplish is to foster at 50% of what they're doing should be fostering stewardship generosity, stewardship formation. The other 50% of what they should be doing is financial oversight. Are we hitting the goals of what we're striving for? Worship and music maintains, works on overseeing those two aspects of our life together, which is the worship of God and the music ministries together, and they oversee all of those. One of the things that I'm going to go over here in just a minute is how many folks should be on a committee. And of these committees on that row there, they should strive, I argue, to have at least 8 persons on each of those committees. That is the makeup of a healthy committee. Now, for some of them, that is going to be 1 elder or 2 elders. That already makes up that. Each one of all of the rest of them, except for the deacons, all the rest of them have at least 1 staff member. So that can have 2 or 3 people right out of the gate. Stewardship is a good example I'll pick on. Stewardship also has a trustee, a treasurer. So there's 4 or 5 people right out of the gate. And then there's always members at large. And that's the real goal, is that the leadership, the elders, along with the staff resource, are seeking out, striving to bring people onto the committee as members at large, so that it doesn't just become a committee of Josh, Joe, Jeff, and Tesla. And why might we want to ensure that we have a committee of 8 people versus a committee of 3 or 4 people?
Because we like diversity of thought, in that any one person's strong opinion would be diluted a little bit. Yeah?
That is absolutely a good answer. Not the only answer, but a good answer.
I really was gonna say the same thing my mom said, so I don't really know.
That's okay. Yeah. All right.
To keep your committee members from getting burnt out because they're the only one doing anything.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Smart.
What is it they say? Many hands make light work. Yes,
Accurate.
absolutely. Those are functional reasons why, but the real reason why is as ruling elders, our job is again to measure the spiritual growth of our congregation, which means we have to take an active part of inviting people to participate in the life of the church. And this is a key phrase I want all the elders to hear and memorize, and that is, you are to be the leaders of people, not the doers of everything. If we find ourselves on a committee that in your role, you end up being the doer of everything, then we have set that committee up wrong. Now, there are times when we as leaders are also the doers. It doesn't mean that we just pass the buck off to everybody else. Sometimes we are the doers of things, and that's okay. But we're going to take the fast track to burnout if we're the only ones who are the doing of the anything. Okay. So I'm going to leave that for now, and then I'm going to move on to any questions on the church organization and how we see ourselves, how we structure ourselves.
No.
Great. I love that no with a question mark. That's
Yeah, well,
fabulous.
I kept thinking about, having, and maybe, I don't know if this is a place for it or not, Jonathan and I are, Presbyterians that turned evangelicals that are recovered evangelicals back to Presbyterians. And I've talked to you about this, how the idea is that when we talk about evangelism, the entire evangelical church and the non-denominational movement is so focused on winning souls. And so when I look at the committees and what they do, it seems it's vastly, vastly different in my opinion. There seems to be so much focus on nurturing and feeding the body of Christ within the church and not so much on like we're going to go spray the world with Jesus. It's like we are going to be salt and light, but we're going to make sure the Christians in our church are tended to as well. So it just seems to be a difference and when I look at the organization, a lot of what I feel is directed internally rather than externally. That not to be like, I don't want to offend anyone, but like the evangelical church is all like just out there. And I feel a lot less of that in the Presbyterian church and in the way this is organized.
That's great feedback. And also, what we have been working on pivoting, a pivot, what we've been working on, I would say intentionally for the last 4 years, and baby stepping our opening of that door, right? So our congregation never had an evangelism committee and was something we never talked about. So it's taken us time to answer, well, what does that mean? What does that mean to invite? And how do we equip ourselves to invite? The sermon series we're in now is really about how do we learn how to grow and to share the good news with others, and how do we give witness to the resurrection in our daily lives. That's some of what this sermon series we're currently doing is all about. So we start with that. Then we also I was thinking some about Colton's sermon today, and he said, "You're not late. I already have my fill. We already have what we need. Let me get out of the way to make room for you at the table." And there is intentionality in each of those. And Colton saying, "Let me get out of the way to make room for you at the table." When you do a lot of, if you're only inward focus, it makes it really hard for someone to see they have a place at the table.
Yeah.
So we do have to work, and we have been working hard of what does it mean for us to make room for you at the table for when you come, and what
Right.
does that look like? And also, how then when we move out, how do we go out and tell people that there's room for them at the table? So that is, when I think about what you described, Annie, with regard to churches, evangelical churches that are, we're so outward focused, and we need to make sure that when we bring you in, we save your soul. Well, there is kind of the other side of Presbyterians in that regard. We want you to get here. So, a local pastor of mine was telling me that they did 147 baptisms on Easter. And that's cool. And then it's over, right? So,
And that's the mountain. We have a lot of experience with the mountaintop experience in the evangelical church, where it's this waxing and waning and waxing and waning. And they come in, it's really exciting, then it drops off because it's not so exciting, and then it kind of falls off the path, and then they jump back on, and then
there's sometimes not a whole lot of depth there. We want you to participate in small groups, but whatever it is you do on the backside of getting dunked is not as important as making sure that we get our numbers that you got dunked. And so there is a work to be done of finding parity between the two. And I would say over the last 3 years, as intentional as we have been publicly showing up, the session allocating, let's see, this was 2 years ago, allocating 20 to 25% of my time to purposefully be in the community as a representation is like the session, the church commissioning me to be a missionary to the community in which we live. And we've seen both to give witness to who we are and what we believe, and also come and join us. And so this is areas in which we've grown, and still more work to do. And I think that we'll see some more of that unfold over the next couple of months as we do some of this internal discernment and assessment that we're working on.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing, and then I know we have a
Please.
lot to cover today.
You're good.
Because the other thing is going back to what Colton said today about the book of Acts, and we're not all going to be like, the followers of Jesus in the book of Acts, where they sell half of what they own and give it to the poor. And I kept thinking, what is hope sold that we own to give to the poor? And that's another one of those areas. It's not simply the evangelism. I've been in churches before that have carved off a tremendous amount of money that they pour directly into missions. So these are those things that, like, I am in a like a holy or righteous discomfort with how comfortable as part of the church I am, but that the church isn't in some ways. And so I think that that's definitely, as we go into this, something that I am happy to bring with me to the elder role that I will hold in the church.
Yeah. And I thank you for that. And because I think that's a tension that is going to be healthy for us.
Right.
I will say that I feel like part of what I've tried to proclaim over the last 10 to 12 years is that y'all have heard me say it, 100% of our giving to the church and 100% of the annual budget is all mission dollars. It's all mission money. It's 100% mission budget. We do have some benevolence that we send out, absolutely. But we are also doing a mission. We are a mission center at 11512 Olson, that what we do there is our mission outreach to the community. And the simplest example I have would be the children's music ministry is a robust and functional outreach to a mission outreach to our community. And I say that in the sense of, I've been here long enough to know that children's music ministry is not something that is elevated in most churches in our area. It's a particular way in which we help these young people grow confidence in their faith, confidence to proclaim their faith. And Annie, I'll just pick on you. You will see that with Iris, who's in elementary school, both be able to assert, one, good questions about her faith, two, at some point be able to answer those questions, and by the time she finishes high school, be able to stand and proclaim with confidently. And that starts with good early childhood Christian formation of our young people. And so that's just one example that there was a time that I wish that I asked the session to rename the fellowship building to the mission center, and that we would have that as new vernacular in our culture here, because that building is the center of our mission in this community. And yet when we call it the fellowship building, we really kind of denigrate what actually takes place, and we're kind of dismissive of what actually takes place at our property. And it helps us to refocus that this is the center from which mission is spoken out into the community. So, but that's a great conversation. Let's have more of that later.
Okay.
Thank you, Annie. Love it. I want to draw your attention to what may seem like a snooze fest, which is the bylaws. And they're easy, they're quick read. They're just some general information about how we function as an entity. I do want to now also pull your attention to the operations manual. Did it come through? Great. And the operations manual is sort of one big kind of catch-all for all policies. So the manual itself, and I'm going to zoom in here, has our mission statements, information about our logo, our bylaws, membership, church leadership, session. And then in the appendix, which is not included in this PDF, the appendix has a listing of a whole vast resource of policies and files, which I've given to you some in piecemeal. So the church organization chart, while it's not in this, it's still under the umbrella of the operations manual. The Hope Children's Center operations manual is under the umbrella of this church operations manual, our wedding policies, funeral policies, et cetera, et cetera. So the church operation manual is the massive big umbrella of which everything else falls underneath. And so everything that all of the policies that come under that umbrella need to live in parity with the church operations manual. A few things that you will see as you look through this PDF. One, identifying our mission as a Matthew 25 church, and exactly what does that mean for us to be a Matthew 25 church? What is our vision statement, which we repeat in worship every week? It does include very overtly what our inclusivity policy is for the LGBT community. It has information about our logo and how it all breaks down, what the different elements mean. So this is sort of a branding guide for us in that respect. It again has the bylaws, which you can enjoy in your leisure. How to become a member, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to belabor all this. So those are things that I want to draw your attention to and let you just have a jolly old day time reading through all of those at your leisure. There is a new vernacular, so we do have some updating to do to the operation manual. Because we do have some new vernacular that is called, mission groups. And I want to take just a moment because there's some important information about what a mission group is and how it influences our vernacular related to leadership. A mission group is something that is relatively new. It's just about 2 years, it's just a little over 2 years old. And it functions on the idea that each one of us all have callings and to live out in service to Christ. And some of us have some specific interest in our calling. So let's say Joe and Diana and Joan have a particular calling to do sidewalk chalk ministry. Okay. Because y'all think it's really important that that is how we proclaim the good news is we're going to go do sidewalk chalk ministry on the public sidewalks around public schools. Okay, great. It's wonderful. Fantastic. You're going to do sidewalk chalk art and, quotes from the book of Psalms and we love you. And that's wonderful. And y'all three are really kind of passionate about it. And you found out that you're all real good sidewalk chalk artists as a hobby over a fellowship dinner and said, hey, man, what if we went and did this thing? Fabulous. So then we ask ourselves, and y'all come to us and say, we think that this church ought to be really engaged in sidewalk chalk ministry. We think it's the best thing in the world. Our church says, well, we see you're really passionate about it, and we want to empower you to launch that ministry yourself from your own calling. And y'all are allowed to apply for and to form a mission group. And it must have 3 members of the church at a minimum. It can have 30 if there were 30 people, but 3 people at a minimum form. Now, if you have 2, you're not a mission group. If you had 3 and a year later you only had 2, you're no longer a mission group. You are 3 people who form the leadership, the foundational leadership for this mission initiative. And if things run their course, that's okay because things run their course. That is important. It must be 3 members. When the application comes before the session evaluates, is this sidewalk chalk ministry in alignment with our overall ministry of who we're striving to be as a Matthew 25 church and as and invite all to worship, grow in faith, follow Jesus by serving others. And let's say the session says, yes, we think that this is something that is in alignment with invite all to worship God. Fabulous. Or Matthew 25, to welcome the stranger. Fabulous. Wonderful. Now you're a mission group and annually you're free to go. You have access to promote things. You're not a part. You don't have to all of a sudden start attending monthly meetings. You're your own group. The 3 of you do your thing. And if you need help, we're here to help. But otherwise, go get them, Tiger. Let's say that Annie, Jeff, and Tesla say, well, we want to form a mission group that always wears polka dot jumpers and plaid onesies, because we think that that best embodies the Jesus the Christ. And you want to be called the plaid polka dot people. Cool. That's great. We see that you're really passionate about it. And I want to validate with you. You're welcome to apply to be a mission group of the plaid polka dot people. And, it comes to session reviews it and says, you know what? This sounds really neat. That's great. We love you. It's not really in alignment with who we are as Matthew 25 or as an invite all to worship God, grow in faith, follow Jesus by serving others. So while we're not going to approve you as a mission group, we are grateful that you have this passion and you are more than welcome to wear polka dot and plaid every Sunday. Cool. Great. So let me add the leadership vernacular that comes out of being a mission group. And there are 3 roles. The 3 people, if there's only 3, then each one of them has to serve a leadership role. If there's 5, guess how many leaders there are? There's 3. It is convener, the shepherd, and the publicist. And I want to unpack that just a little bit. The convener is someone who is going to ensure that we're staying on task. That is, if that team, that group is having a meeting, usually it will be the convener who is structuring our time together, calling us to order, and helping us move through what we're trying to accomplish. The convener is usually someone who is also the public's forward voice of that group. So if there is an announcement to be made or a report to be done orally or a booth that we're setting up, it would be the convener who is generally that forward-facing individual. The publicist is someone who is, if there are notes to be taken, is kind of that behind the scenes administrative things. If there is promotion of events to be done, you're trying to rally people up to participate in something, and you wanted to put something in the news for the pews or the monthly newsletter or the social media, or there's a report to be made from the minutes of a meeting, the publicist is going to be the one who does that. This might be someone who is not excited about standing in front of others in large groups and speaking. Cool, there's a role for them there. The shepherd is someone who's tasked at ensuring that all of what we're doing is staying centered on Jesus Christ. This is the person who will lead us in prayer or ask others to lead us in prayer. If we're getting into a debate about the sidewalk chalk ministry and Joan and I are having some conflicting visions, it would be the shepherd who would say, you know, in this discussion we're having, how are we best reflecting the will of Christ? And maybe before we answer that, why don't we take a beat and have a prayer? The shepherd also functions, I think, in the traditional sense of shepherding. Let's ensure that we're getting all the lambs from point A to point B, and that we're pursuing the overall mission of the entity, the mission group, the committee well. 3 active leadership roles, co-equal trilateral leadership. Does that make sense? Those roles kind of make sense. So we have implemented that terminology not only for mission groups, but across all of our committees and bodies of people. So at the session, I've even implemented that. The Book of Order has names for us, which is great. So I am the moderator, but we also refer to me as the convener of session. I convene the session, etc. Our clerk of session is the publicist who takes the minutes, who calls us to, sends out correspondence and communication. And Pastor John serves as our shepherd. So when there are times for us to pray, that will go to John, or John can ask someone else to engage with that. When there are elements of spirituality in the work that we do, John is the one who's to pull that in. But for all of our committees as well, there should be a convener, a publicist, and a shepherd. And on each of those committees, y'all will figure out which role most suits you. Just because you have 2 elders, and we try to always have an elder moderator and a younger moderator. And I don't mean that by age. I meant that by a senior and a junior, if you want to put it that way. Just someone who's been on the committee for at least 1 year and someone who's just coming on, or someone who's been on for 2 and someone who's been on for 1. That way there's always some succession. Just because you are the senior elder of the 2 doesn't mean that you have to be the convener. You can stay as the publicist or be the publicist, and the other person can be the convener. Why? Because there isn't a hierarchy. It's a trilateral leadership, co-equal leadership responsibilities. Why might we want to embrace the idea of trilateral co-equal leadership? Why might that be a good idea to have the 3 co-leaders?
Again, like going back to what I just learned from Joan, splitting the dividing up the responsibility, but also because not one person's the boss.
Absolutely. Because that's also not the Presbyterian way. What I say goes, right? And also, I want Annie to know that I've got these teammates that we 3 can rely on each other. And my portion of the work is this amount, not this amount, because we're the leaders of people, not the doers of everything. And so we can share that burden together, and we can also hold each other accountable for the work that we're doing together. I know I'm naturally, as a convener, it's my natural gift. It's what I'm naturally bent towards. I know that I can sometimes lose sight of some of the spirituality. I can lose sight of some of what Christ is doing in the midst. And so it's the shepherd who gets to hold me accountable. And I know I have someone who is really great in the role of shepherd, who can sometimes get so deep and ethereal that they may lose sight of the work that we're actually trying to do. Does this make sense? So this is what we've been striving to live in for the last couple of years, and some of our committees function really well, and some of our committees still need some growth in living into those roles. Joan.
I was also going to share that it's sort of a reflection of the Trinity.
Preach.
Maybe that was baked in by design. I don't know. I wonder. Nice observation, Joan. And you're exactly right.
I'm going to credit Sunday school this morning with Marcelo. He had us thinking really deep this morning.
I'm sure he did, because I would expect nothing less from Marcelo Gonzalez. We're going to pivot on now to, I want to run over a few things I've given you. Man, my computer is so sluggish. One is a file that I sent you called The Crossroads of Communications. And I put this together a decade and a half ago. And I've tried to keep this updated. This is for your reference. This is not some sort of, you must do this. The purpose of this is to show you that there are multiple channels of how we can communicate to the congregation. Personal invitation will always be the most effective form of communication to a congregation. And it is one of the most underutilized forms of communication in any church. So that's why I've listed it up front. It's important to invite people. People are more likely to say, yeah, I'll come, when you have personally invited them to join you. There's a link to the church calendar. There's some parameters with regard to the church newsletter, the Hope Children's Center newsletter, the News for the Pews, our website. I'm going to go over social media in a minute. Making video content for our church website. Look, friends, I would say that's the second most underutilized form of communication. Is the Sidewalk Chalk Mission Group really wants to invite everybody to come out and enjoy the beauty of sidewalk chalk. Well, make a little video. All of us have a camcorder in our hands these days. Just take a little 60-second video. Hey, I'm Bubba and would love to have you come join us on Sunday for da-da-da-da. Text it to me. If it's 1 minute, you can text it to me, and I can put that on our Facebook, on the YouTube. I can include it in a variety of different places. And people are more likely to watch a reel or a short little video, 60-second video. Statistically, people are more likely to watch that than to read the newsletter or to read an email. Okay, so just
I can
don't
definitely
forget.
work on this.
Wonderful. So use these multiple channels. we have not, and I want to elevate this, we have not done a minute for mission as a part of who we are for a long time. I would say at least since COVID. And that is from the stubborn rigidity of me as the planner of worship than anything else. And here's the reason why I have been insistent about not doing a minute for mission for all these years, is that so often committees will use uh, the minute for mission as their only source of communication. So Joan says, I need to do a minute for mission on Sunday to announce the sidewalk chalk art that we're going to do on Sunday afternoon next week. Cool. Well, I already have 3 people who want to do a minute for mission this Sunday. And you're using that as the one and only time that you're going to communicate with people. And I don't have room for you to do a minute for mission. Now what? Well, you don't communicate, you don't invite. Or you say, I want to do a minute for mission to the sidewalk chart. That's happening in 3 weeks. I want to do it this Sunday. Great. But if you're not there that Sunday, then you didn't hear the invitation to join us for that, because that was the only one time that you communicated that. And if you weren't there that Sunday, then you missed out on the minute for mission and you don't know that this thing is happening. We have to have diversity in the ways in which we communicate. We cannot expect that the minute for mission is the sole thing. And I promise you, there are also a lot of folks who would check out inside of worship when the minute for mission comes up. They just don't pay attention. It is not the most effective form of communication and invitation. So that's why I put a hold on minute for missions. We do them very rarely. Maybe the one time a year is Ma and Pa, and that's it. And only because that is a very unique way in which people will pay attention. I've also put some other things in here, like if you're planning something, let's say rally day, here's how, just it's a general idea of how your committee can plan things. Here's some things to do 8 weeks out. Make sure that you get it on the church calendar and that space is reserved. Here are all the different forms of communication. Here's some best practices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My goal and invitation to you is plan early and plan often. The summer is the most effective time to do planning, and I strive to hold everyone accountable in May, June, and July to do their 9 months of planning, so that by the beginning of August, you've already mapped out most of what you want to accomplish for the next 10 months. So then once rally day comes around, you're just implementing and not trying to invent things on the fly for your January event. And now it's December, 15th. So I just can't encourage you enough to do forward thinking and planning and structured planning with your team. I want to encourage all of you as leaders in the church to participate in engaging with our social media. For those of you who have social media, if you don't have it, still pay attention. If you do have Facebook, when the church posts content, we want you to like it. You're welcome to reshare it as it works for you. To engage with it, comment on things. If it says, hey, what was your favorite? What kind of barbecue do you like? Hey, I love ribs, beef ribs in particular. And engage with it. Both, it does help the algorithm, but it also helps people feel comfortable in engaging and invites them to do so. If you have Instagram, there's the links to our Instagram, same sort of thing. You see something you like, hit the like button, comment, engage with it, etc. We don't use Nextdoor very often, so I'm just going to skip on past that one. You're welcome to follow us on Nextdoor. The YouTube is, if you have not subscribed to our channel on YouTube, we want you to. And then also, whenever there are YouTube videos that you want to share, share them. And then we want to always encourage y'all to write a Google review for the church or a Yelp review for the church or both. And that's helpful. It's a one way in which there are so many people who check out our church through all of these channels, YouTube especially, and Google and Instagram, long before they decide to ever come and set foot on the property and join us. So the more that we can be reflective of who we are and what we love about this place, the more clear of a picture we begin to paint for folks who are wanting to come and be with us. Okay? All right, we're doing great. I have one more thing to cover. Any burning questions up to this point?
Nope.
Wonderful. The last thing I want to cover is really nuts and bolts about preparing to formally lead meetings with regard to an agenda or writing the reports of those meetings, you putting together the minutes of those meetings. And I sent this file to you also, although I did update it just now. I updated it this morning, so I sent you the most recent version. Because not everybody in their world uses Google Docs, and not everybody in their world uses full pages. We want to encourage everyone to save your agendas and your minutes using the MS Word format. And the file name is .docx. If you use Pages, you can export it into that file format, but that is all of the church technology on campus is Windows-based. We only use Microsoft Office products. Most people who are in leadership at the church are only using Microsoft products. So it's okay if you want to make it a PDF, that's great. But if you're really wanting to give things to folks, we need to operate with the .docx in the Microsoft Word version of those files. The naming template that we want to encourage you is put the year first, and then the 6-digit combination of month, date, and year. So the year helps put all of our files according to that, and then the naming style of March 1st, 2024 in this example helps it to better organize. And then the name of your committee and what is it? So date, name of your committee, and what is it? HCC, minutes, personnel, agenda. There is, I promise you, there is not an office administrator police who is going to write you up because you get any of this wrong. This is our strong encouragement because it makes life easy, especially in the filing that we maintain in the church server. This is just really helpful for us. It also increases readability for everybody else. If all else fails, use Times New Roman font with 12-point single space. I'm not mad at you if you use Arial 12-point font with single space. I mostly use Arial 12-point with most of the stuff that I send out just to increase readability for various eyes and also people with dyslexia, dysgraphia. It's just those are easier fonts to read. And the 12-point is a right size. Again, no one is going to write you up. We'll just want to encourage you. When you include names in any of the agendas or the minutes, we want you to strive to have that name spelled as correctly as possible. Some of them are going to be a challenge. Diana throws us a curveball because she has 2 N's in her name instead of 1 N. Steinheider is a fun thing to say. Sometimes it's like Schlotchkes. It could be a hard thing to spell. We have Schmidt can be a hard one. If you don't get the D in there, and all of you have had your name Hetherington. Oh, Lord have mercy. Everybody wants to go, I'm sure, Heather. I'm sure they do. And
You're
there's no
welcome.
A.
You're welcome,
Uh,
everyone.
Yes, I'm sure we have all had our name misspelled and how much it means to us when people get it right. So our strong encouragement is take a moment, cross-reference with the church directory, and make sure that we get them right. Uh, um, I have included templates, and I will email you updated just standard Microsoft Word document templates of the agenda and template of the minutes. Here's just a standard template of an agenda, a listing of names, check boxes. Are they there? Were they not there? The general format of the direction in which this agenda takes is make sure that you have the meeting date of the next meeting. Let that be one of the first things you do at all of your committees. All right, before we get started, let's make sure that we have the correct date for our next meeting. So often this is the last thing at the very end of the meeting. And half the times folks will say, I'll email it and we'll just get it organized then. And next thing you know, you've got doodle polls and 17 emails just to figure out the freaking date. Take care of that business up front. The name of the publicist, the shepherd either prays or will name someone to pray. I want to encourage you to always do at every committee meeting, do a budget review right up front every month. Hey, let's take 2 or 3 minutes. Let's take a look at the financial report of where we are from last month to this month. Anybody have any questions? Stay on track of the spending and just report it. Keep it simple, so make sure that all committees have eyes on your portion every month. If you have someone who is a staff member assigned to your committee, and most all the committees do, invite them to give their report up front. Sometimes staff members have to step out and either go to other meetings or other functions. Go ahead and invite them to offer their report up front. It also allows them to kind of maybe answer some of the questions that might be on the agenda. We have 2 movements in an agenda. One is continued matters and the other is new matters. In other settings that you have been in, what are those called?
Old business and new business.
Old business and new business. Why might we call it continued matters and new matters? Because we do the
continued sounds better than old.
Yes. And matters versus business, because we are not a business. We are a ministry. We do mission. We have mission ministry matters that we engage with, that we're going to continue engaging with. And we have some new ministry matters that we're going to take up. I've worked really hard on, and y'all will see this when y'all come to the session meeting, I've worked really hard on trying to move our meeting culture away from any of the jargon or the familiarity of corporate life or corporate stuff that we want to try to shove into church life. What we're doing as a church needs to be, let's model well how to engage with each other around these tables that then we all take out to our places of business elsewhere and deploy them there. We don't want to be directed or influenced by corporate world and secular world into our spiritual world. I also feel that when we're together, that we should be striving that these meetings should be spiritually based. They should be growing us, informing us, and shaping us in the work that we do together. And it is not like, how quickly can we get through the business of the agenda? And that will lead us to some of these next things, which is recommendations to session. Recommendations to sessions are either going to be motions that we need a session to take action on, or requests that we want session to take up and discuss. A request can be, we have been debating about this issue. We're kind of split and ambivalent about, and we would like the direction of the session to give us some feedback of how to move forward with this concern that we have. And so that is the only thing that gets sent up to session, our motions and requests. And we always, at the end of every meeting, have to take time. How shall we express our gratitude? And churches can be some of the worst forms of giving thanks, even though we're grounded in Thanksgiving. How can we take a moment and just simply give thanks? Who needs to hear thank you? And that doesn't mean it has to be tailored or limited just to your committee, although that's good. It could be like, hey, we're just church members now, and we're really grateful for Sally Jo Raphael, who, did a really good thing with the coffee or whatever the case may be. Your expressions of gratitude, they're not limited to the work of your committee, and they're not limited to how many you want to include. But there should always be something for which we give gratitude. Every day that you wake up, there should be something for which we give thanks. And it's important for us to practice that as a group every time. Let's see, Joan. Thank you, Annie, for watching. Tia. Oh, very good. Thank you, Joan, for watching Tia during worship today. Wonderful. There's an expression of gratitude, closing prayer. Now, let's talk about the minutes of the committee. The minutes are going to keep them simple. There's essentially 5 items that go in the minutes. 1, items of note. Hey, 1 to 2 sentences. We had a conversation about Taco Tuesday. That's it. You don't have to, we do not want to write novels. Keep it simple. Steward. 1 to 2 brief summations of conversations. If we write paragraphs, no one's going to want to read them, and they get really bogged down. You've spent a lot of time with them. You spent too much time documenting. Keep it simple. But we do want to say, for reminding us, we had a conversation about stewardship practices. Great. We had a conversation about planning rally day. We'll return to it next month. Great. Keep it simple. Actions taken. These are 1 to 2 sentence summation of actions that your committee took within your committee's authority to take. We decided to host a fellowship event for young adults. Wonderful. Great. You do not need sessions approval for the things that they've already given you approval to do. So, Christian education. Christian education wants to have Annie Hardy teach a class on yoga. Great. The Christian education class said, we think that's a cool thing. Let's do it. And we approve Annie to do it. Great. Now we're going to put that in actions taken. We approve Annie Hardy to teach a class on yoga. That's it. And that's what gets kicked up to session. Now, at session, Joe is going to read actions taken from all the committees. And Joe says, yoga, I don't think we should be teaching yoga at this joint. So at the beginning of the session meeting, I'm going to say, we're going to have a consent agenda. And on the consent agenda are all the items of note and actions taken. Is there any actions taken that you want to pull out? Joe says, I do. I want us to discuss the idea of yoga. We're not going to discuss it then. It just means I'm going to take it out and put it under new matters, and we'll discuss it later on. Okay? Otherwise, when we approve the consent agenda, we're approving all in one foul swoop, all the items taken and all the items of note and actions taken. The only thing, therefore, from the committees that land on the session agenda are motions and requests. Motions motions should consider and offer guidance to the session. It should include details that are needed. The Christian Education Committee recommends approval of the new child safety policy included. Great. Wonderful. Requests, as I went forward earlier, we want sessions feedback on this question. The Stewardship Committee requests the session offer clarity and rationale regarding spending thresholds. Great. Session can have a discussion about it, send that information back. My job as a convener is that sometimes the recommendations to session will come and I will make the judgment call about whether or not this does not need session discussion or approval. And I can say, Stewardship Committee, you are clear to make that decision on your own. That is not a conversation for us. Or I can say, this question is really, this question is going to get deferred to Buildings and Grounds. And then they can, y'all need to talk to Building and Ground. This isn't a session thing. The two of y'all need to work it out. So think through meetings and items that we take up. When we look at only the recommendations for session lands on the session agenda, how might that be beneficial to the session?
Keeps the meeting shorter.
Definitely keeps the meeting shorter. And it's not because I'm trying to microwave us through the meeting. It's just that everybody is full of opinions. And if we take up every items of note, every actions taken, and every recommendation, we're going to go back to 4-hour meetings. And that is how long they were 12 years ago. 3.5 to 4 hours long. And ain't nobody want to stick around for a 4-hour session meeting. Okay.
Look, the other is if the committee is truly doing its work, then it shouldn't have to all come before the session. This is part of our doing the work of Christ. We have been called to make these decisions on behalf of the session as part of our committee. It is the committee's work to do it, not the whole sessions. There are times where you, yes, Josh, as the convener, need to say that should be a session call, not a committee call. And I'm going to trust that you will do that.
Yeah, I rarely have to. And usually the elder will come to me and say, I don't know what to do with this. And I'll say, don't know what to do with it? Great, kick it up the session. Let them offer you counsel. The other thing that it does is, one, it keeps us out of the trenches as a session body, because as a session body, we have our own things that we strive to accomplish, which is the overall spiritual health of the congregation and the movement forward. And we need that time to focus on those things. Otherwise, they fall to the wayside, and then we never pay attention to those things. Then expressions of gratitude, and there you go. Okay, there is the whirlwind. I sent you those things. You guys are welcome to and encouraged to look through them. Of course, I have other resources. If y'all have any questions about particular things, I have other resources I can send you. One area that our church could do better at administratively is making files easier for y'all to have access to. And, in the school district and the school systems, they all use the Google Suite with Google Drives and Google Docs. And that's great. It has not worked out so well for us in the times past. We've tried to have a centralized file share of the cloud. We at the church use the Microsoft suite, so we have a OneDrive, and that too hasn't been all that helpful. So we have some growing areas administratively to explore and to do better in, but we haven't hit there yet. So for now, when you have questions, go to Nancy, go to me. Nothing but full transparency with everybody. Y'all can request a budget report anytime that you want. You can request it to be as detailed or as minimal as you want from Paula. Everything is yours. You're welcome to it all. Once you come on session, you all will be given a swipe card that gives you access to the buildings. and a key to the church office. There's forms to fill out related to that. Some have chosen to not have a key to the church office, but when you don't have a key to the church office, you can't go check your mailbox. And guess what? You have a mailbox in the church office. So most of the leaders, every Sunday when they come to worship, they just swing by the office and check their mailbox to see if there's anything in there. The swipe card is helpful because that allows you to get into places, get into the buildings and host meetings when you need to. This was a little bit more nuts and bolts today. What questions do you have?
How has it been received since you've rolled out the concept of having 3 leaders in each group? I know that there were a lot of kind of pet projects where people maybe were really excited about something. Have things drifted away?
As in like endeavors, mission endeavors?
Yeah, like projects, mission endeavors that people had that they were really excited about, but it was only like 2 people or it was like 1 person when you
I would
employed
say
this strategy.
it's yes and no. It more has kept us from saying yes to a whole lot more initiatives because only 1 or 2 people were interested in as a pet project. It's really helped us keep a good boundary on not bloating our service booklet. We had a bloated service booklet 8-9 years ago. 35, 37 different mission endeavors. And we've worked really hard to streamline those down to the 6 charitable acts that Jesus mentions in Matthew 25, and to ensure that we must have a service champion who are not us for each of those endeavors. Now, you can be the service champion for the prayer shawl ministry and also be an elder. But what we want to make sure is that Diana comes on as an elder and we don't say, oh, and by the way, you're now the service champion for prayer shawl and you don't even know how to knit. And that was happening in times past as well. Is guess what? Yay, congratulations. You're now the new elder for this. And by the way, you're the primary lead. And you're like, I don't even like that stuff. That's not my calling. It's a disconnect. And it's an ingenious way of doing ministry. And so what it's really helped us is to ensure that we're not bloating up. If there's a real movement, like Hope Spokes is a great example. I am not a cyclist. What I don't want is Joe to be the elder on outreach and say, great, now I've got to take on learning the cycling group. And I don't even cycle, right? It's not my thing. But that Hope Spokes group, they're really excited about it. And they're doing a bang up job. And they're so happy and it's wonderful. They got jerseys and more power to them. That's great. They are doing good work. Wonderful. And community is being built. Wonderful. But if their leadership dies out and the interest goes away, then we aren't trying to shoehorn in elders and deacons into ministries where there's no passion. Does that help answer your question, Annie?
Yeah, that it does help answer my question. I was curious about whether there was any grumbling, which I imagine there was a little bit, but I know you and I talked about this over a year ago, and I was curious
Yeah,
to see
some of the grumbling happened in the beginning when we first started paring down. And it's really hard for a church to say, thanks be to God, we've had this ministry and it's run its course. I'll tell you mine personally. Was the mental health ministry that we had that we launched in 2014 and was very robust, had a lot of success. And even on the national denomination level, we accomplished some great things. And I'd say in 2018, 2019, the leadership began to kind of fizzle out. There just wasn't as many people who wanted to support it. And it kind of just became a ministry of 2. And then it became a ministry of 1, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't, I couldn't run that ministry and be the pastor of a church. The Reading Buddies program that we used to have had great success. And we had anywhere between 20 and 25 people over 2 schools reading to kids 30 minutes a week. It was wonderful. And then the leadership dwindled down to 3 and then 2. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't be the sole leader
Yeah.
of a program where only, well, the last year that we ran the Reading Buddy program, as much as we promoted it, we didn't have one member of the church who was a reading buddy. And that's really so much work, and I just couldn't do it. So it's okay to say goodbye to things. It really is. If things have run their course, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. That's good.
We
Yeah, that
we
was
just celebrate it well. We say thanks be to God for that era, and we move on
Yep.
because there makes room for other, who knows? Maybe the Hope Spokes things, next thing you know, they're going to get, sponsorship by First United Bank. I don't know. And, who knows where things can grow? But if we don't make room for that, how can we
Yeah.
grow? How can we grow? There's a cycling community in Northwest Austin, Cedar Park. I don't know anything about it, but it's growing. I mean, it's there. It's replete. Okay, well, invite all to worship God. Wonderful. I don't know. I think it just opens us to more possibilities. There are some drawbacks, right? Because we could end up again with 20 mission groups that have 3 people each, and they're all competing for the same 15 people who are remaining. That could be a challenge too. So, but that's the work of the session to also ensure that we're not having 5 feed the hungry programs at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Makes sense. That makes sense. It's
yeah.
redirect. So I like the idea that you've centralized also the support, the financial support. That makes a lot of sense. All right, good. No, thanks for answering.
No, always come with me in questions. I love visiting with you guys. I'll be emailing you the short survey, rank your committees. And before the end of this week, I will let you know which one I'm assigning you to. If you want to run me up a flagpole because of what I put you on, then schedule a time for us to have coffee or a phone call. So, Joe, would you be so willing to lead us in that closing prayer after you unmute?
I didn't print it.
Oh, I just put it in the chat. Did it pop up on your computer there?
Yeah, and then it went away. I'll get it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get it. Come here. All it says is from Annie, hello.
We're close. Okay. Let's do this.
There it is. I see it.
Okay. Wonderful.
Faithful God, you have called us, and you go with us. As we leave at this time together, strengthen us for the work you have set before us. Help us to lead with clarity, to listen with patience, and to act with courage. Keep us attentive to your spirit, grounded in your truth, and committed to the good of your people. Where we feel uncertain, give us trust. Where we feel inadequate, give us grace. And all things guide us to reflect the love and justice of Jesus the Christ in our life and leadership. Amen.
Okay. Thank you, my friends. Blessings on y'all.